The native altcoin of this project has returned over 1900% since the start of 2024, and arguably it's related to one of the most promising applications of blockchain technology that we have in the future, and that is the tokenization of real-world assets. This is something that BlackRock believes could amass $10 trillion by 2030. It believes that real-world assets of that value will be on-chain by 2030, so this is not a niche to overlook. Bonds, equities, cultural assets, they're all coming on chain, which means that momentum is well and truly behind this niche. And one layer one blockchain in particular is drawing a lot of momentum right now. But is it still a good investment, or should it be one to avoid? That is what I want to try and uncover in today's video. Before I get started on the deep dive, if at the end of the video you've enjoyed the information that's been presented, please hit the like button down below. It really helps my channel out. And I would love to have you as a subscriber on the channel. If you don't want to miss out on any future deep dives like this, please hit the bell notification down below too. In addition, if you're out there and you're struggling to navigate this crazy crypto market and you're struggling to pinpoint what the key signals are, what the main market movers are in terms of fundamentals and also from a technical analysis point of view, in addition to altcoin deep dives like this and gaining my own personal insight on them, then my 80/20 crypto newsletter is there. It's free to use, one email per week, released on a weekend so that we can prep not only for the week ahead, but also build an altcoin shortlist for the future. So if that sounds of interest to you, I'll leave a link to the newsletter down below. So let's unpack what is arguably one of the hottest real-world asset projects right now. Let's take a look at Mantra. So Mantra is a real-world asset project focused on the creation of regulatory compliant infrastructure, and that's really, really important. In its own words, as we can see here, it wants to bring the financial system on-chain. So from absolutely anywhere in the world, Mantra wants to make it as easy as possible for users to interact with real-world assets via their crypto wallets. That could maybe mean tapping into the UK real estate market while you're sitting in Greece, or perhaps purchasing US bonds while you're sitting in Argentina, for example, which is a pretty cool ambition. And it's the from anywhere in the world that is the key point here. So while those in developed countries, such as myself, get access to real-world assets by default, the likes of stocks, bonds, a lot of others in the world don't. And Mantra is hoping to open the doorway for them. So there are two main aspects to the Mantra ecosystem. It's got its chain and then everything built on top of the chain. So starting with the Mantra chain, this is the proof of stake blockchain that is secured by the native token, which we'll get to shortly. The key thing here is that while it is a permissionless blockchain, like many other layer ones out there, it was specifically designed for permissioned apps. And by that, it means the apps that will require KYC checks and compliance approvals, because we're dealing with real world assets here. So the integration of the traditional financial ecosystem and DeFi is going to need those KYC and compliance checks for sure. So instead of embedding the compliance at the consensus level, meaning the blockchain, the layer one protocol level, Mantra Chain's flexible smart contracts allow for compliance at the application layer. And then we have all of the key features that are built on top of the Mantra chain. So first we have Mantra's DID, which is the digital identity. And this is a decentralized ID service that allows the creation of soul-bound NFTs. So these are NFTs that can't be passed between users, that are linked to a person's identity and its KYC checks. Next up, we then have the Mantra Guard module, and that works with Mantra's DID, so this decentralized ID service, to grant users access to particular applications and features within the Mantra ecosystem. Next up, we have the Mantra Token service, and this allows for the creation of tokenized real-world assets. And then finally, to round off the product suite, there is the Mantra DEX, and also a protocol built to improve real-world asset liquidity, which is called Mantra Leap. Mantra Leap, I believe, is in the works currently. So the Mantra DAO was first launched in October of 2020 by founders John Patrick Mullin, Will Corkin, and Rodrigo Juan Miranda. And it was initially built as a platform to improve DeFi applications such as staking, lending, and borrowing. So it was never truly focused on real-world assets and the tokenization of real-world assets. After initially building on Ethereum, the Mantra DAO then transitioned to a Polkadot substrate, a chain called the Rio chain. However, after a refocus toward the tokenization of real-world assets, the decision was made to migrate all efforts to a native chain built using the Cosmos software development kit. So this is now a chain and a protocol that exists in the Cosmos ecosystem. Then, after 18 months of testing, the native Mantra chain went live in October of this year. So it's just launched its mainnet Mantra chain. So then we come to the native token, which is OM or OM. And OM is the main utility coin of the Mantra ecosystem, and it has 4 use cases. It's required to secure the proof of stake Mantra chain. It's used to pay for all transaction fees. It's needed for the governance of the Mantra ecosystem, and it's also needed by developers who can also stake OM to grant access to the Guard module. In terms of funding rounds that have happened, there have been both private and public funding rounds that have taken place in Q3 of 2020. So we had a private round in Q3 of 2020. We had a public sale in August of 2020, and we can see the price of the token at these events. So it was 2 cents at the private round, 5 cents at the public sale round. The next funding round only happened in 2024. So we had a funding round in March where they raised 11 million, and also another strategic round later in the year. No details on the ticker price, but I guess because the token's already in circulation, then the ticker price at that time would have been the market value. And then we come down to the token generation event itself, which was August of 2020, and the list price there was 20 cents, sorry. So 20 cents, that was the price at which this token launched. So now we come to the tokenomics of OM. The market cap of OM currently stands at $1.19 billion, which places it in the large cap category of altcoins. So this isn't a small play at the moment. Out of a total supply of 888 million OM, 855 million are already in circulation, which in comparison to most projects is pretty good. However, it is the total supply and it's not the maximum supply. The maximum supply, it hasn't got a maximum supply, so it's not capped, and we'll come back to this shortly. Of the current total supply, 30% were allocated to staking rewards, 17.5% were allocated to the team and advisors, 12.5% were awarded to grants, another 12.5% were awarded to referrals, 10% to reserves, 9% to the private round, and 8.5% to the public sale round. And now we come to the video where we need to start weighing up the pros and cons. What are the risks and the upsides to the OM token? What are the things that can drive demand for OM, which would then cause the price of OM to spike higher than it already has done? And what are the things that could strip away that demand or increase supply of OM so that the price of OM may potentially fall? Those are the things that we need to weigh up. And starting with the upsides, the real world asset class is gigantic. I've said this before, but the upside to real world asset projects is kind of like an unknown thing, as we've never witnessed real world assets be tokenized before. This is a new thing. We haven't seen it in previous cycles. So how much need could there be for that process? Well, the majority of the people in the world hold some form of real-world assets, and if Mantra manages to grab even a small fraction of that market share, it could be huge for the OM token. And compliance is the only way that this future is going to become a reality. And by building in compliant-ready smart contracts, it means that Mantra is good to go straight out of the box for most real-world asset developers. So in terms of competition, not many out there can say the same thing. Now, we can't forget to overlook the insane price action that OM is currently showing as well. It's been a year of consistent higher highs and higher lows, and this is despite an altcoin summer slump. While most altcoins pulled back for a good 5 months over the summer period, OM did not happen. We have seen higher highs and higher lows consistently. Yes, we've had pullbacks within that, but the price of OM is now almost as high as it's ever been. So we've got an all-time high price of $1.55, 59 cents. And we're currently trading at $1.39. So we're very, very close to all-time highs. But that means that the appetite for this coin is high in comparison to others in the market. So if that continues, this will reflect positively in OM's price. So those are some of the upsides to OM and the Mantra ecosystem. But now what are some of the risks? What are some of the downsides that could hurt the value of the OM token? Now, Mantra is not on its own in its ambition to bridge DeFi with TradFi. Ondo Finance, Centrifuge, Relio, Maker, these are all projects that are trying to bring those two together. And that's just a couple of examples. Those are the ones that I'm familiar with. I'm sure there are plenty more out there. And while momentum at the moment is hot for Mantra, and it has unique selling points in terms of its regulatory compliant smart contracts, as I've already mentioned, there's no guarantee that it will stay at the top throughout this transition to the tokenization of real world assets. Another risk is that the tokenization of real world assets is going to be a slow process, especially as so much involves large financial institutions. These are not going to be companies and organizations that are going to be able to adopt this technology overnight. So it is going to be a slow burn. Now, another risk that we can't ignore are the plans to increase the total supply of the OHM token. So with the majority of OHM now in circulation, there is apparently not enough to keep fueling incentivization and reward blockchain validators. So the plan is to actually double the supply of the OHM token, and that extra supply needs to be therefore met with increased demand over time. Not all of it will be released in one go, of course. There will be an emission schedule, but the supply, the total supply of OHM is going to probably double in the future. And they speak about this on this podcast right here. So I would implore you to go and check this podcast out between Box Mining and one of the co-founders of Mantra. Good podcast, go and check it out. Now, another aspect of risk is that Mantra's mainnet was only launched in October of 2024. So while an extensive testing period will have taken place, no doubt, there is simply no way to know if Mantra will cope with increased traffic in the future. We've seen other blockchains fail that we didn't think would fail, but they have. And when real world assets are on the line, if a blockchain goes down, that could impact the price of OHM. That could impact the price of OHM significantly. Mainnet launches, such as the one that's just happened for Mantra, are also sell the news events. So that's something to bear in mind too when you're looking at current price action. And then talking about price action, the price of OHM is now as high as it ever has been, which means in terms of risks or reward profiles, OHM is currently not very attractive. So if OHM were of interest, ideally you would want to be buying OHM on pullbacks to help limit that risk. And you can see the move that we've seen since December of last year. And if we put a ruler to that, you can see that to the peak, it has been nearly a return of 6,400%. And that is everything that I have on the Mantra protocol, one of the best performing real world asset projects in 2024. But can that streak continue? Can it offer enough investment potential in the future to be added to an altcoin shortlist? That is the key question here. For me, Mantra and the OHM token are really interesting. And I shared all of my personal views on this in my 80/20 newsletter a couple of weeks ago. So if that is of interest to you and you want my personal opinions on altcoins such as this, the 80/20 newsletter is the only place to get that. So as I said before, I'll leave a link to that in the description below. Please sign up and come join the community. I would love to have you as a subscriber there. I think the broad utility of Mantra is super interesting. I think the way that they have baked regulatory compliance in the smart contract level and having a permissionless blockchain with permissioned apps on top is a really unique thing to do. And it means that those foundations in compliance mean that any type of real world asset DApp could be developed within its ecosystem. But on the other hand, we have nearly twice as many OHM tokens coming into supply in the future, and we have the price of OHM trading near all-time highs at the moment. But let me know what you think. I would love to hear your thoughts. Do you think Mantra and the OHM token offer good investment potential for the future, even at these all-time high prices? Or do you think there are better real-world asset projects out there, maybe in terms of the fundamentals of the projects or the amount of return that a native token could offer you? What are the best real-world asset projects out there? Let me know in the comments. I really hope you've taken value out of this Mantra deep dive, and if you have, please hit the like button in the video. All that's left for me to say is don't put more money into crypto than you can afford to lose. All crypto assets should be aligned with a variety of other investment protocols. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's always worth bearing in mind. And please, of course, do your own research before buying anything. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you in the next one.